Hi, hello, and annyeonghaseyo. My name is Lee, and welcome to my channel. Today, I will be reviewing and discussing the South Korean, technically LGBT film, Method. Method is a drama following respected method actor Lee Jae-ha, who agrees to co-star with idol turned aspiring actor Young-woo in a provocative stage play about same-sex desire and obsession. Soon, however, the lines between fiction and reality begin to blur, sparking a fierce love triangle involving the two men and Jae-ha's girlfriend Hee-won. I'm gonna cut to the chase. I did not like this movie, nor do I recommend watching this movie. Having said that, let's continue along our normal route, on which I will give my spoiler-free review of Method, followed by a full plot synopsis before jumping into its representation choices and the larger conversations this film incidentally stumbles into. Let's begin. Released in 2017, Method was the fourth feature film for director Bang Eun-jin. It screened at the 22nd International Film Festival in October that same year and went on to tour the festival circuit, mostly garnering praise for the film debut of Seung-hoon as Young-woo. It was released to theaters for the domestic audience starting November 2nd, 2017. Method went on to gross $180,336, according to the Business Zone of the Korean Film Council, and racked up 26,651 admissions. Method's reception can be embodied by two critics' reviews I located. One reviewer thought the film was well acted, emotional, compelling, and overall very effective. But the other saw Method as poorly paced, miscast, shallowly written, boring, and accused it of using the queer elements as mere beating novelty rather than for thoughtful exploration. And after digging through viewer responses, this same split is echoed there. Here's the general breakdown of where viewers rated Method. It's all over the place. Out of a little over 1,400 reviews across multiple platforms, 32% of viewers gave it low reviews, 43% gave it middling reviews, and 25% of viewers gave Method high reviews. See what I mean? Not a whole lot of consensus on the quality of Method. But honestly, that matters very little to me, because this movie's terrible. Here are the three positives, and I mean the only positives I can give this film. 1. Seung-hoon gives a decent performance, particularly as Young-woo when he's lost in character. 2. It's well shot, but not exceptionally so. And 3. The score is great. That's it. This film is 80 minutes long, so not technically reaching feature length, but it felt so much longer. Method is a film with a very stripped down plot. 2 main characters, 1 supporting character, a few locations, and a condensed time frame. As a result, this film is fundamentally a character drama. However, the chemistry that the whole film rests on, between Jae-ha and Young-woo, is entirely unconvincing. Like watching 2 actors at gunpoint have to kiss each other. 2 men consensually kissing has never been made to look and feel so unappealing as in this motion picture. Jae-ha, played by Sung-woong, a very talented actor, is clearly miscast. If you haven't already, watch him in The Smile Has Left Your Eyes on Viki, an absolutely phenomenal drama. As for Hee-won, Yoon Sung-ha gives an uneven performance, if I'm being generous. As a content warning, this film does depict a potentially intense relationship and touches on suicide, though it does so obliquely. Altogether, I would give Method an F. It's poorly paced, not well acted on any consistent level, and doesn't even remotely try to thoughtfully engage in anything it presents. If it was going for entertainment, it misses that goal as well, because it's not sexy or romantic or erotic or thrilling, just a really boring slog to sit through. Your lineup of characters to waste 80 minutes on are either a miscast, unlikable, pretentious method actor, a moderately well-acted idol who's a complete cipher with no motivation, or a poorly acted wife with nothing to do in the film. I have not seen Bang Eun-jin's other work, but maybe her other non-queer films are better? Oddly enough, Kim Young-ee's The Poet and the Boy is the better version of this plot. Better acting, better shot, and more compelling. Originally, I typed up a 1,000-word detailed summary of Method based on my notes, but it's irredeemably boring. So here we go. I tried my best. Method begins with introducing our 2 leads. Lee Jae-ha is a respected stage actor known for his method acting approach to each role. He has just signed on to a new play, but is very wary of the other lead, a young idol by the name of Young-woo. Young-woo was recently involved in a motorcycle accident and is potentially using the prestige of this play to divert attention from that scandal. Their play, entitled Unchained, centers a homosexual couple, Walter and Singer, whose obsessive dynamic ultimately ends in death. Around this time, we also meet Jaeha's long-term girlfriend, Hee-won, an artist. Over the course of the early script readings, tensions rise, both from Jaeha, who protests the casting of an idol, as well as from the frustrated cast and crew. Young-woo has a party boy reputation. He's frequently late, his fangirls swoon, his manager takes his notes for him and posts photos of his hard work to appease fans. But worse, he flubs his lines or gives poor readings due to his inexperience. By the third reading, Jaeha takes off the kid gloves. In character as Walter, Jaeha yells at Young-woo, going method until he cries. Already, the lines between the personal resentments of reality and the emotions of the play blur. Afterwards, however, Jaeha tries to ease the tension by inviting Young-woo to his home for the first time, and he sees the idol's own frustrations with how his life is seemingly micromanaged. As a peace offering, Jaeha gives Young-woo a book on acting, which the young actor uses to annotate his own script and offer ideas on his character, impressing Jaeha. In turn, Young-woo is impressed by Jaeha's reputation, a method actor who fully immerses himself in order to play a role. From then on, the trio, Jaeha, his girlfriend Hee-won, and Young-woo become temporarily inseparable. However, seeds of jealousy begin to be sown amongst the three, with Jaeha at the center. With rehearsals commencing, Young-woo has a panic attack, the bright lights of the stage triggering a fleeting flashback of his mysterious accident. Jaeha comforts him, and through rehearsals, Young-woo earns Jaeha's respect and piques his curiosity. Later, the two go to a promotional photo shoot, where a different kind of tension emerges, as Young-woo proposes more and more provocative concept ideas, posing tightly against one another and almost stripped. As Jaeha and Young-woo get closer, however, the relationship between Jaeha and Hee-won becomes distant. For example, Jaeha goes jogging instead of waking up with his girlfriend, and even scolds her harshly and publicly when she shows up uninvited to a rehearsal. One day, while Jaeha and Young-woo are alone at the theater, the two, while partially in character, hug and then share a kiss, which is seen by Hee-won, who then runs away. Without confronting her boyfriend, Hee-won asks Jaeha to stay with her, attempts to initiate sex and/or reassert their heterosexual relations, but ultimately fails. At one of Jaeha's and Young-woo's rendezvous, they kiss again but express clearly that they aren't gay, just interested in one another. Suddenly, the two men are on a road trip, replete with reckless driving, poppy music, and surfing. However, once Young-woo posts on Instagram, they are quickly located. In a confrontation with Jaeha, Hee-won heavily implies that Jaeha has sexual or romantic relationships with all of his co-stars. With the photos public, the play itself comes under fire for its homosexual content. Talking with Jaeha, Young-woo admits that he was the one who posted the photos with the intention of showing their love to the world and hoping they could come out together. At the resulting press conference, Jaeha dismisses the rumors and chalks up their close relationship as just part of his method. Young-woo, clearly hurt, is not allowed to speak at the conference, only looking on as Hee-won stands by Jaeha. The day of the play's first performance, Young-woo breaks into Jaeha's and Hee-won's house while they are asleep but goes unseen. Inside, he purposely breaks one of Hee-won's personal sculptures. Fortunately, Young-woo shows up just in time for makeup and tells Jaeha not to worry, because he finally understands his character. During the performance, Young-woo begins to play mind games, and Jaeha, unable to keep up, breaks character. The violence on stage starts to percolate. Jaeha actually strangles Young-woo, and in the finale, when their characters are both hooked up to a saw-like contraption meant to kill them both, Young-woo takes out the safety mechanism and tries to hang himself. Luckily, Jaeha is able to save him. However, once backstage, Young-woo criticizes Jaeha's Walter as severely lacking next to his performance of Singer. The film then concludes with Young-woo alone and sad, and Jaeha leaving the theater with Hee-won, both dead-eyed. Even though I've provided a breakdown of the film, this summary is in part me filling in the intentions of the filmmakers where the execution lacked. For example, anytime I use the word tension, that's the tone I think they were trying to achieve. But unfortunately, method is absent of any tension. That could be construed as sensual, sexual, romantic, or erotic, even if that's what was intended to be conveyed. And thus the whole film rests on an emotional dynamic that is poorly written, not well acted, and is essentially DOA. But let's jump into the actual representation choices Method makes for depiction of a same-sex relationship and desire. Early on, a symbolic dichotomy is created with Jaeha on one side and Young-woo on the other. The camera contrasts Young-woo's idol aesthetic, makeup, jewelry, surrounded by subordinates, with Jaeha's, a salt of the earth, traditional leading man who even rides a bicycle rather than driving a fancy car. Jaeha creates respectable art, represented by theater and fine art, while Youngwoo operates within the popular art world of K-pop and idols. Through the characters' visual and personal differences, the film also sets up a divergence between generations and types of masculinity within the world of art and entertainment. The grounded, natural method artist versus the made-up, diva-like industry idol. Mind you, these are arbitrary and superficial conflations based on historical, cultural, and social specificity. They are not essential even if films present them as such. The discourse of the masculinized artist and feminized idol has basically been riddled with problems, oversimplifications, and often laced with misogynistic and homophobic, and sometimes xenophobic undertones from day one. It's not new, it's not original, and most of the time, it's just shallowly handled and disappointingly presumed a given. And then these two opposites are fit into what is fundamentally the structure of Fatal Attraction, one of the most iconic affairs turned murderous films ever made. Like Fatal Attraction, the male lead is successful in his field and seemingly happy in his heterosexual relationship, but this respectable existence is disrupted by his infidelity with a person who later proves unstable and dangerous. That is method to a T. Even the third act feels like the Fatal Attraction horror twist with a smidge of Birdman's theatrics. While Jaeha is eventually revealed to be a pretentious cad that takes his girlfriend for granted, Youngwoo, our second lead, is cast as the arbiter of queerness, of deviance. It is he who cultivates the queer desire, then initiates the relationship. But he is also cast as dismissive of elders, vain and image-focused, then eventually as mentally unstable, manipulative, having difficulty telling fantasy from reality, almost disassociative, and potentially suicidal or homicidal. Queer character doesn't have to be the pinnacle of goodness, but he is also given no space for nuance or complexity either. Youngwoo's actions beg a million questions, but the film deliberately ignores every single one of them. Why are particular kinds of gender presentation and sexual desires so intertwined in Korean society? What must it be like to be an idol in an industry that both leaves room for queering gender and amplifies queerbaiting, yet disallows actual queer identities? Even basic character background is glossed over. Like, what was the nature of his accident? How does it affect him? Or Youngwoo's motivations? What is he getting personally out of the acting role? What does he see in Jaeha? For Jaeha, this seems entirely ego-based, but for Youngwoo, he's left a cipher, just a flattened symbol of queerness that descends into deviance and slasher monster behavior. And there's the evidence of how queer desire is for this film at the end of the day, just a bait, just a novelty. It's not engaging or challenging or deconstructing or even entertaining. Method doesn't want to deal with eroticism or homophobia or closeting or celebrity or gender, basically any of the things the premise is navigating. There's a reason I never bring up the sexuality of actors in the films I'm reviewing. In American film discourse of the past several years, discussions of authentic casting have become a central topic, whether that refers to race, nationality, ethnicity, gender identity, or sexuality. But that's a conversation that required decades of representation and enough visibility to even broach. There must be films about gay people to question whether they should be played by gay actors. Alas, that is a discourse that cannot bloom in the Korean film industry as yet. The closet is still far too pervasive despite the small amount who have come forward and risked it all. For me, the possibility of two prominent men in the Korean entertainment industry being outed creates stakes 100 times more potent, intense, and anxiety-producing than any of this what is method, what is acting, what is art, BS this plot is pretending is interesting. Unintentionally, it raises interesting questions about queerness within the entertainment industry, closeting, etc., that in a better film could drive a genuinely compelling story. Method is not interested in telling a compelling story. And in that, it does succeed. Method is available for free with ads on Amazon Prime, IMDb TV, and Tubi. But please, don't check this one out. Until next time, goodbye, farewell, and 안녕히 계세요.